Let's get Grayson's grades over at 97.3 ESPN.com. The Eagles and the Cowboys. I tweeted at Grayson Fox29. Of course, you can see Scott on Props and Locks and Fox 29 television, and his grades are up at 97.3 ESPN.com. I texted him at halftime that I had the answer key before they were out. I had an F for Carson Wentz and an F- for Doug Peterson. You were a little nicer to Peterson than I was.
Yeah, we just gave him a regular F. I agree with you, Mike. I don't know what we were watching last night. I did not see a team that had the ability to go out with both hands and choke the. They've got the division at this point. They're in first place, but they did not show anybody that they're going to run away with this thing. And Carson Wentz did not show anybody that he's a quarterback that can lead this team to a division title. These are scary. And I don't see or hear any sense of urgency from him to really knock it off. So I really wonder what kind of progress they're going to be able to make through the bye week and maybe recognizing a few things, or what kind of soul searching he's going to do of the job he's doing right now at that position. And Doug Peterson didn't help his team at all yesterday with some of the decisions he made. So I think he's got to reevaluate himself, do a little self-scouting this week, and really try to, both of them need to come out of this and figure out what kind of player and coach they want to be here in the second half of the season.
Yeah, you gave Wentz an F as well. I thought both of them clearly deserved an F. Peterson had an awful game plan, but Wentz, once again, trying to do too much. Scotty had 4 turnovers, 2 fumbles, 2 interceptions. He had 3 in the first half. This team is 3-4-1 for one reason. Their quarterback play has been too many times below the B grade.
Yeah, and I've gotten on the defense at times this season in the first half. But really, this offense has put its defense in a bind with shorter fields, extra possessions that they've got to go out and defend. They're in the middle of trying to have meetings on the sidelines after the last possession where the defense was on the field, and all of a sudden there's a fire drill because they got to go back out and play because of a turnover. And it is crazy. I think a lot of this starts with Carson Wentz and the turnovers. And I saw 3 of them last night that were his fault. The one that hung in the air, you could argue the wind played a factor on that, and maybe I'll give him a little bit of a deviation away from that. I like the fact that they were taking a shot down the field, but he and Hightower are not on the same page. They keep going downfield and rarely connecting, and it's almost a wasted play at that point. At this point, I'd rather see Jalen Reagor or even Fulgham go downfield and try to catch the ball than count on Wentz and Hightower to connect. But the turnovers are just bad. They're holding onto the ball. The fumbles, the sack fumbles that come because Wentz is trying to make plays. Against the Dallas Cowboys, you live to fight another down because chances are you'll succeed against that defense. You don't need to try to be an all-world hero on every play, and I just don't get how, in his 5th year in the league, this guy is not learning these lessons. And you occasionally hear the frustration from Doug, too, to feel like he's making the message heard, but it's not necessarily being received. And I think there's a level of frustration between those two guys right now, Peterson and Wentz, as far as how this has got to go. And the question was asked last night by Zach Berman in post-game press conference about whether or not Doug considered benching Carson last night. And, I think it's a question that Doug's going to have to start to ask himself, at what point do I reach in a game where I've got to make that move? And I don't think they're there yet, but I think there's got to be a message delivered that, listen, Carson, your leash is getting shorter.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. It's definitely not to the point where they are going to sit him yet, but there needs to be some, and this feels very Sixers-ish, but there needs to be some sort of accountability when you're making that many mistakes. I want to get your thoughts on the offensive line. How do you think they played and how that correlated to Carson Wentz? Because you had the news in the beginning, Lane Johnson out, Mailata to the right side. So your overall thoughts on the O-line?
Well, I first of all was against the decision to put Jason Peters back at left tackle. At this point, I think you got to let Mailata ride there, let him continue to grow or see if he can grow in that position. I think he's done a decent job so far. So you let him continue to stay there, and you take a guy who's been around the league a whole lot more in Jason Peters, and when the news came out about Lane Johnson, maybe move him over to the right side. I don't understand why they keep catering to Jason Peters. He got his extra money. Whether he plays left tackle or right tackle, why does it matter? Outside of that, it was good at least to see Peters back out there. to the extent he was able to help. I like some of the things they did on the offensive line. However, Mailata got beat a couple of times that led to some pressure and hits on Wentz. And, I don't necessarily want to pin that on Mailata because he'd been practicing for weeks at left tackle. He'd been starting there, and then all of a sudden he's thrown to the right side. I mean, how many reps did he really take there this week to be able to be ready for that? You're trying to get – I think you're just confusing a guy who's still fresh in the game and asking him to be flawless, which is just difficult. But on the positive side, I thought the offensive line opened up some really nice holes for Boston Scott. And then you go back to Doug Peterson and ask when there's holes being opened. I mean, 15 carries. He had 15 carries. He had 9 carries for 63 yards at halftime and only 6 for 17 in the second half, with the lead, no less at times. I don't understand. Again, I was baffled watching that team last night. And an ugly win is better than a pretty loss. I wrote that in the grades. I said that last night. But, it's still an ugly win, and it's not going to look any better no matter how long you try to look at it.
Now, Grayson's great, Scott Grayson. What did you think of Jim Schwartz in that defense? Because Ben DiNucci was obviously not ready for that moment. And then they give up the early field goal. They moved the ball. Not great. I mean, I thought there was some pressure. But for the most part, people thought, hey, Schwartz is going to send the house at this kid. Nope, he went with coverage a lot. So what did you think of Schwartz's game plan last night?
I was fine with it. I mean, they threw everything in the playbook at him right away, and the Eagles had to try to start figuring out how to compensate for some of that. And the biggest thing that I've been asking for Schwartz's defense to do, which is what they've done in the past in previous years, bend but don't break. Don't give up the touchdowns. Keep them out of the end zone. That was a big key to keeping the Eagles in the game until the offense and eventually the defense, with that one touchdown by McLeod, could start breaking away from the Cowboys. So the biggest thing to me was, you kept them out of the end zone. To me, that's a huge victory. I thought, the Cowboys started to get some momentum going on the ground, which was somewhat unexpected in how well the Eagles have played against the run for the most part. But, that's all they had because they knew they couldn't count on DiNucci to try to beat the Eagles. And to that extent, I was fine with the defense. They did force turnovers. They did not win the turnover battle, which was something I thought they had to do to win yesterday. They did not do that. But the defense forced 2 of them, got to DiNucci a couple of times. They hit him, got some sacks. I was fine with the defensive performance overall, and hopefully see more of that where they limit the amount of times the opponent gets into the end zone. And I'm okay giving up 3. Just don't give up the 6 or 7.
What did you think of T.J. Edwards specifically? We know the holes at the linebacker position, so that definitely feels good to see a guy, make some plays like that.
Yeah, I mean, you didn't see Nate Gary out there because he wasn't playing, and I thought T.J. Edwards brought a certain level of energy and excitement, I think, to that defense. He brought something to them, and I thought he gave them a little bit of a lift. He was certainly doing his job in run support. He was all over the field. He was around the ball. That's what a linebacker is supposed to be and supposed to do, and they've needed that. They've missed that at that position, I think, at times, and he was consistent. He wasn't here and there on a play, here, a play there. He was consistent last night, and now you got to see more of that out of him as he goes forward. It was great to get him back. Now they got this bye week, and you build off of that, and I want to see him have another game like that against the Giants when they come out of the bye. I thought T.J. Edwards brought some life to that defense that they needed.
Grayson's grades are posted right now at 973ESPN.com. Get the full list of grades. Last guy we'll get into is Travis Fulgham. Another week, you gave him an A. I mean, are we starting to be a believer that Fulgham is legit?
Yeah, I think you have to at this point. Now, again, I know it was against the Cowboys defense, and they've been lit up by everybody. But, again, I just continue to see the confidence that Wentz has in Fulgham to lay the ball out there and the ability by Fulgham. He sets up a defender really well. As you watch some of those replays last night, you could see the way he sets up a defender, makes a move, and then goes and gets the ball. There's not many receivers on this team right now that can do that. And I just like the energy, the effort, what he's bringing to that offense, the ability to move the ball down the field. And if there's one guy Wentz has some confidence in right now throwing the ball to, it's him. And that's got to continue. They've got to continue to find a way to, keep getting him the ball. But with every week that goes by where he has games like that, that as opponents start looking at who do we want to take away from the Eagles, I think Fulgham's name is going to keep coming up a little bit more and a little bit more for defensive coordinators to say, let's not let that guy beat us. And how crazy is that at the start of the season he wasn't even on this roster? So amazing, and credit to Fulgham for what he's been able to do this season and bring to this offense, which has badly needed it.
Scott will be back next Monday with a Grayson's Grades look at the midseason. The Eagles have a bye this week, and, of course, they are 8 games in, 3, 4, and 1. So who passes and who fails for the first 8 weeks of the season? We'll have Grayson's Grades for you right here next week on the Sports Bash. Scott, thanks, pal.
All right, you got it, guys. Have a good one.
And he, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline. Grayson's Grades are brought to you by Cross County Connection, the region's transportation management association. They are dedicated to improving the quality of life in South Jersey through transportation solutions. Learn more about Cross County Connection online at www.driveless.com.